Jamal kicked a loose pebble along the cracked sidewalk as he walked home from school, his backpack nearly falling apart at the seams. The sun was already sinking low, painting the city in that familiar orange haze that always made everything look a little softer, a little kinder. But Jamal knew better. The city wasn't soft. It was loud, cold, and often cruel, especially to those who didn't have much. He turned the corner and saw his mom's food stall just where it always was, between the corner laundromat and a pawn shop whose flickering neon sign read, "Cash Fast." The smell of fried onions and grilled bread drifted through the air. That scent, to Jamal, meant home. "Hey, Ma," he called out, dropping his backpack on the ground. His mother, a tired-looking woman with kind eyes and a permanent crease between her brows, smiled weakly. "Hey, baby, how was school?" "Same as always," he shrugged, tying the apron around his waist and getting to work. "Math test was hard, but I think I did okay." She nodded, too busy flipping sandwiches on the hot plate to reply. The sound of sizzling meat filled the air, mixing with the distant hum of traffic and the rhythmic beat of a busker's drum down the street. Evening was their busiest time. Tired workers stopping by for a quick bite, kids with a few coins wanting something warm, and the occasional kind stranger who'd pay a little extra for the next hungry soul. Jamal liked those people. They reminded him that even when life was rough, there were still good hearts in the world. As the crowd thinned and the sky deepened to twilight, Jamal began packing up the leftover food. They always tried to save what they could for dinner, but there was usually too much. He reached for one of the sandwiches, ham and cheese, still warm, when he noticed something out of the corner of his eye. Near the dumpster behind the pawn shop, a figure sat slumped against the wall. An old man, wrapped in layers of tattered clothing, his beard long and unkempt. His shoes were worn to the sole, one tied with string instead of laces. Jamal could see the man's breath in the cold evening air, a faint mist that vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. "Ma," Jamal said softly, "there's a man over there. Looks hungry." His mother glanced up briefly. "Don't go near the alley, baby. You don't know what kind of people. He's old, Ma. He looks tired." Jamal hesitated. "We got extra food." Her eyes softened. She didn't answer for a moment, then sighed and waved her hand. "All right, but don't stay long. And don't give him the soup that spilled earlier, take the good one." Jamal grinned. He poured some hot chicken soup into a paper cup, wrapped the sandwich in foil, and grabbed a plastic spoon. As he walked toward the man, the air felt colder, heavier. He could smell the faint metallic tang of trash mixed with the sweet scent of leftover pastries from the bakery next door. "Hey, sir," Jamal said carefully, not wanting to startle him. "You okay?" The man stirred, lifting his head slowly. His eyes were surprisingly clear, gray, sharp, but tired, like someone who'd seen too much and didn't expect kindness anymore. I'm fine," the man muttered, though his voice trembled. Jamal stepped closer and held out the food. "Here, it's fresh. My mom made it. You should eat." The man stared at the steaming cup, his hands shaking as he reached for it. "Why would you do that?" he asked, his tone cautious, almost suspicious. Jamal shrugged. "'Cause you look hungry. Everyone deserves to eat." For a moment, the man said nothing. Then, slowly, a small smile tugged at the corners of his cracked lips. "Thank you, son." His voice softened. "You're a good boy." Jamal sat down on the curb, watching as the man took his first sip of soup. The way he held the cup, as if it were something precious, made Jamal's chest tighten. The old man closed his eyes briefly, savoring the warmth. "What's your name?" Jamal asked after a moment. The man looked at him thoughtfully. "You can call me Henry." "Nice to meet you, Mr. Henry." Jamal smiled. "I'm Jamal." Henry nodded, his eyes glinting with something unreadable. "Nice to meet you too, Jamal." They sat there in silence for a while, the boy and the old man, listening to the city's heartbeat. The hum of engines, the chatter of people passing by, the distant bark of a dog. For Jamal, it felt peaceful in a strange way. For Henry, it felt like the first moment of warmth he'd known in a long time. As Jamal stood to leave, Henry looked up. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "I know," Jamal replied. "But sometimes it's good to do what you don't have to." Henry's eyes followed him as he walked back to the stall, that faint smile still lingering on his face. That night, as Jamal helped his mom close the stall, he didn't realize he'd just changed the course of his life, or that the man he'd given food to wasn't just another face lost to the streets, but someone whose story was far from over. The next morning dawned crisp and bright, the kind of morning that made even the cracked pavement look almost golden. Jamal arrived at the food stall before his mom, pulling the metal shutter up and breathing in the faint scent of yesterday's cooking. He liked opening the stall. It felt like he was opening a tiny piece of the world that belonged to them. He was arranging the loaves of bread when he heard footsteps behind him. They were firm, confident, nothing like the shuffling steps of the man he'd seen by the dumpster the night before. When Jamal turned, he froze. The man standing there looked familiar, but different. His face was clean-shaven, and his clothes, though simple, were neatly pressed. His gray hair was combed back, and there was a kind of quiet strength in the way he carried himself. "Good morning," the man said, smiling. His voice was the same, soft but steady. "You're Jamal, right?" Jamal blinked, then grinned in surprise. "Mr. Henry, is that you?" The man chuckled, a warm sound that carried through the crisp air. "It's me, son. You didn't think I'd disappear, did you?" Jamal shook his head, still staring. "You look different, like, really different." "Well," Henry said, glancing down at his coat, "a good shower and a clean shirt can work miracles. A friend helped me out last night." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Guess kindness is contagious." Jamal laughed. "You must be feeling better." "I am," Henry replied, his eyes softening. "Thanks to you." Just then, Jamal's mom arrived, carrying a tray of condiments. She gave the man a polite nod, then looked at Jamal questioningly. "This is Mr. Henry," Jamal explained. "He's the man I gave food to last night." She hesitated, then smiled. "Ah, well, I'm glad to see you up and about. Would you like breakfast?" Henry shook his head. "I'd like to pay for something this time." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wallet. It wasn't fancy, but the bills inside looked crisp. "You sell coffee?" "Sure do," Jamal's mom said, handing him a steaming cup. Henry paid and took a slow sip, his eyes studying the little food stall with genuine interest. "You two run this together?" "Yes, sir," Jamal said proudly. "My mom started it a few years ago. I help after school." Henry nodded, impressed. "That's good. You learn responsibility early that way." He took another sip. "You must have dreams beyond this stand, though." Jamal hesitated. "Yeah," he said finally. "I want to open a real restaurant one day. Not fancy or anything, just a place where people can eat good food, even if they don't have much money." Henry's gaze lingered on him, thoughtful. "You'd keep the prices low?" Jamal shrugged. "I guess. Food's not supposed to be something people have to beg for. It's just life." The older man smiled faintly. "That's a rare way to think, son." He set the coffee down gently. "You remind me of someone I used to know." Jamal tilted his head. "Who?" "Myself," Henry said quietly. For a moment, the noise of the street faded. Jamal didn't know what to say. There was something in Henry's tone, a heaviness, like a memory too large to carry. Before he could ask more, a line began forming at the stall, and his mother called for help. Jamal handed out sandwiches and counted change, but every time he glanced up, Henry was still there, watching, smiling faintly, like someone trying to remember how to belong in the world again. When the crowd thinned, Henry spoke again. "You know," he said, "people often think wealth is about how much you have. But it's not. It's about how much you can give without losing yourself." Jamal frowned slightly, trying to understand. "You mean, like, being generous?" "Something like that," Henry said. "I used to have a lot of things. Big house, big company, bigger problems. But when my wife passed away, I realized I'd built a life full of money and empty of meaning." Jamal's heart sank. "I'm sorry." Henry nodded slowly. "Don't be. Life has a way of showing you what really matters. You showed me a piece of that last night." Jamal blinked, unsure how to respond. Nobody had ever said something like that to him before. Henry looked at his watch and sighed softly. "I should go. Got a few things to take care of today." Jamal handed him a paper bag. "Here," he said, "for later." "On the house," Henry smiled. accepting it with a small bow of his head. "You're a good kid, Jamal. Don't lose that kindness. It's rarer than gold." As he walked away, Jamal watched him go, puzzled and curious. The man's steps were steady, his back straight, not the posture of someone beaten by life, but someone who had chosen to carry it differently. When Henry turned the corner, Jamal felt a strange warmth settle in his chest. He didn't know who the man really was or why he'd come back, but something told him that wasn't the last time he'd see him. Later that day, as Jamal wiped down the counter, his mom glanced at him. "That man," she said. "He's not what he seems, is he?" Jamal smiled faintly. "I don't think so, Ma. But maybe that's a good thing." Neither of them knew that the man who had just walked away was far more than a wandering stranger, that the quiet gentleman with kind eyes was, in truth, one of the city's wealthiest businessmen, testing the world to see if kindness still existed beyond the walls of fortune. And now, because of one small act of compassion, he'd found his answer in a boy with a warm smile and a sandwich. The sun was setting behind the tall buildings when the black car pulled up to the food stall. It was sleek, gleaming under the golden light, so out of place on their worn-down corner that even Jamal's mom paused mid-sentence, a spatula still in her hand. The car door opened, and Jamal's heart skipped. Out stepped Mr. Henry. But this wasn't the man who had once sat in rags by the dumpster. He wore a perfectly tailored suit now, dark blue with silver cufflinks that caught the light. His hair was neatly styled, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. And yet, despite all that, his smile was the same, warm, familiar, real. "Mr. Henry," Jamal said, his voice barely more than a whisper. Henry grinned. "Hello, Jamal." Jamal's mom straightened, her eyes widening. "Well, I'll be." Henry chuckled softly. "I imagine I look a bit different from the last time you saw me." Jamal nodded, speechless. The man walked closer, his every step measured, graceful. When he reached the stall, he placed a hand on the counter as if anchoring himself to the place where it had all begun. "I hope I'm not interrupting business," Henry said. Jamal shook his head quickly. "No, sir. We just closed the lunch rush." "Good," Henry replied, "because I have something for you." He turned to the car, reached inside, and came back with a thick envelope. Jamal stared at it, confused. "What's this?" Henry smiled, the kind of smile that carried a secret. "You'll see." He handed it to Jamal. "Go on, open it." Jamal hesitated, his fingers trembling slightly as he tore the envelope open. Inside was a neatly folded letter and a check. The numbers printed on it made his eyes widen so much he almost dropped it. "Is this real?" he stammered. "This can't be." "It's real," Henry said gently. "That check is for you and your mother. Enough to help you open that restaurant you told me about." For a moment, there was silence. The noise of the street faded. No car horns, no chatter, no sound at all except the wind rustling through the paper signs taped to the stall. Jamal's mom took the letter from her son's hands, her lips trembling as she read it aloud. "This is to confirm full funding for a small business grant, under the Harris Foundation." She looked up sharply. "Harris? You mean?" Henry nodded slowly. "Yes, Henry Harris, founder of Harris Investments." Jamal blinked in disbelief. "Wait, you're a millionaire." Henry chuckled softly. "Some say that, but truthfully, money never made me rich, people did. And last week, a young man gave me food when I had nothing to offer. That's worth more than any fortune." Jamal's eyes filled with tears he didn't know were coming. "But I didn't do anything special," he said, voice breaking. "Oh, you did," Henry replied. "You saw me when no one else did. You didn't ask what I could give you or who I was. You just helped. That kind of kindness can't be bought. It deserves to grow." Jamal's mom covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed. "Sir, we can't accept." Henry held up a hand. "You can, and you must. It's not charity. It's an investment. In you, in your son, in the goodness that keeps this world turning." He placed a gentle hand on Jamal's shoulder. "Promise me something, son. When you build that restaurant, keep one table open. Always. For someone who needs a meal but can't pay. Just one." Jamal nodded quickly, his throat too tight for words. Henry smiled. "That's all I ask." The three of them stood there for a long moment, the streetlight flickering on as dusk fell around them. Jamal could feel the warmth of the letter in his hands, the paper trembling as if alive with possibility. "Mr. Henry," he finally said, "why me? You could have given this to anyone." Henry's gaze softened, and for a moment, Jamal saw the weary man from that night by the dumpster, the one who had once lost everything. "Because, Jamal," he said quietly, "I was looking for something I thought I'd lost, faith. And you gave it back to me." When Henry turned to leave, Jamal's mom called after him, "You'll come to the restaurant when it opens, won't you?" He turned back, his smile gentle. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." The car drove away, disappearing down the street, leaving behind the faint hum of the engine and a silence thick with disbelief and gratitude. Jamal looked down at the letter again, his fingers tracing the printed words like they were sacred. His mom wrapped her arm around his shoulder, tears glistening in her eyes. "See, baby," she whispered, "good things come back to you." Jamal nodded slowly, still staring down the road where the car had vanished. The city lights blinked on, one by one, casting a soft glow over their tiny stall. He didn't know what the future would bring, or how hard the journey would be, but for the first time, he believed that dreams could come true, not because of luck or money, but because of kindness. And somewhere, miles away, in a tall glass building, Henry Harris sat in his office, a small smile tugging at his lips as he looked out the window. On his desk was a single piece of paper with Jamal's name on it, a reminder that even the smallest act of compassion could change the world.